What is up, guys? William here from fitnessforbackpain.com. I've got something to tell you. It's gonna break some hearts. If you're a big fan of yoga, if you're a big fan of stretching, this video is gonna strike a nerve. I'm gonna show you a stretch on my tour around the world of stretches that low back, post-surgery, chronic back pain people should not do. We're here today. We're here today to talk about a stretch that I see too often, it's prescribed too often, it's done too often in gyms, and I know it feels good, but it doesn't work. All right, so I'm gonna show you what it is, and I'm gonna give you an option of what you can do instead. So this video is more about, hey, if you have low back pain and you're doing this stretch, stop. There's tons of things you can do that are all over my YouTube channel. You can also see how I approach things like this through strength training alone. You can go to the workshop that's linked in the video here in the description box, or it'll pop up right here. That link that you're seeing there will give you way more detail on how you should approach a stiff low back. Instead of stretching, you should exercise, and there's a specific way you should be exercising. So if you want more, go to that link. But let's jump into this video because you gotta stop. You gotta stop doing this stretch. There's a lot of stretches you shouldn't do, but today we're gonna talk about the low back twisting stretch, whatever you wanna call it, rotation, whatever. Basically what you do, you see it a lot in sports such as baseball, and you see it a lot in clinics, people being told that, oh, your low back is tight, let's do the low back twist stretch. And what that is you drop a leg down, pick a leg up or keep it bent, and you drop it over to the side. If you were to Google low back stretches, best for low back pain, this is literally the poster child of stretches for low back pain. But guess what, guys? It is hands down the worst. Yes, as you pull, as you exhale, you get a great stretch in the low back. Your back might pop, it might feel great, but guess what? It sucks. Now, I'm not gonna just leave it there. There's a reason why it sucks, and I talk about this a lot in my stretching or anti-stretching videos, and it's what I call your protection mechanism, right? You have some low back stiffness. There's a lot of reasons why your low back might be tight. It could be lack of exercise, lack of resilience in the low back, fear, anxiety, catastrophic stress. There's lots of things, and you have to approach all of them. And simply stretching the upset area is not gonna work. Now, this protection mechanism, basically what it is due to all the factors that I kind of listed, your back feels like it needs to protect itself, right? The muscles are stiff. That might be where your tension is, or you may have had a surgery, a fusion, a laminectomy, discectomy, whatever you might have, or just persistent back pain. You train, you exercise. Regardless of that, what's happening is your brain is sending signals to stiffen, to tighten, to protect, due to the damage, the pain, the sensitivity, whatever you might be experiencing. So what we do is we try to stretch these symptoms or attack these symptoms through stretching. By doing this stretch, you might get some relief, right? You might experience some pops and cracks, and you might feel like, oh, by doing it, I feel like my low back and my spine gets put back in place. And it's just a very terrible way of describing whether you've been told by that through a chiropractor, you've been told by that through a doctor, or that's just what you've kind of settled on yourself. It's not true. So if you've been doing that stretch and you're not progressively getting better, as in you've done it once, you've done it twice, maybe for a week or so, and boom, your pain's gone, and you haven't done it since then because you don't need to do it, then that's great. You're an outlier, and that specific situation for you worked. But if you're still in pain, you're still trying to figure out what to do, try this stretch out. Amongst the other things I mentioned at the beginning of the video, try this variation out. It's not stretching the low back, but oftentimes what happens in the hip area is these muscles get tight, and one of those muscles, or a few of those muscles that make up that tightness, could be your glutes, okay? So this is what I suggest that you do. Instead of getting on the ground and dropping everything over and getting that massive rotation here in that low back, this super sensitive area on you, what I suggest you do is get yourself into a neutral position. Try to relax, get comfortable. Don't try to flatten your back out. Pelvis is in neutral, ribs are down, abs are slightly braced. This is not a core exercise, so you're trying to ultimately relax. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my knee here. What you wanna think about, if you were to put your finger on your pelvic bone, you'll feel this big old bone right here. On that hip crest, what you're gonna do is think as if you're trying to push that hip crest into the ground. While you're pushing that hip bone into the ground, you're gonna pull the leg over. But what you're not gonna allow yourself to do is rotate in the low back towards that pulled leg. Instead, as if you have a pin going through this right hip, or however you want to think about it, you're just kind of doing the opposite. So as you pull this leg, you're pushing down with this hip to trying to keep that hip. You have your right and your left hip, right? You're trying to keep it flat on the ground. You're not trying to allow it to lift and rotate. So by pinning it down, anchoring it down, you're pulling the leg across the body, and you're only gonna pull it until you start feeling that stretch all in this low or this upper hip, deep hip area. What makes this ninja is if you think about relaxing your low back, right? Naturally, we're gonna, because we're scared of hurting ourselves, we're gonna stiffen and create tension that isn't needed there. So instead, we're gonna pin ourselves down, pull it over, and relax that low back and allow these muscles in this area to completely chill. So the low back's relaxing, the hips relaxing, glutes are relaxing, and I'm using this arm and the weight of my leg to just get that nice deep stretch in the hip. Now you can adjust where you feel that stretch by moving this leg up and down. Once you find that sweet spot, you should feel it all in this glute here. Again, you're not gonna feel it so much in the low back because that is not the goal of the stretch. That should not be the goal, period, is to create more torque and more twisting in the low back, especially if you're having tension. I know that sounds counterproductive, but trust me, it's not gonna work. So that's it. Stop trying to twist and rotate and stretch the low back when it feels tight and tense. Try some other things. Take the stretching away, and I promise you, if you do it long enough and give yourself a chance to break and relax and recuperate from all the stretching, you're gonna feel a ton better.